seems like last week's controversy has hit Georgia GOP Senate candidate Herschel Walker where it hurts. The former NFL star trails behind Democratic Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock by 2 points in a new Emerson College-Hill poll, a 2-point bump for Warnock.
This, of course, comes after bombshell allegations that the staunch pro-life Walker urged and paid for a previous girlfriend's abortion in 2009. Walker has vehemently denied these claims and recently told Fox News that the reports have awoken a grizzly bear. In the state's gubernatorial contest, Republican incumbent Brian Kemp has a 5-point lead over Democratic challenger Stacey Abrams. So, this is the continuing salacious, just awful kind of story.
I mean, we were just talking about this in another segment involving the racist statements that were caught on tape by the LA City Council member. And it's this question of public integrity. Like, do we care if public figures are on record having been accused of spousal abuse or not taking care of their children or paying for abortions in conflict with their stated policy on the matter or their stated beliefs on the matter? I think the answer is that might be an issue in primaries. I don't think it's as big of an issue in general elections.
What do you mean by that?
Because at the end of the day, if you have a choice between two people who are going to vote the way you want to vote, and one of them has morals and ethics and the other doesn't, sure, we have room for morals and ethics. If it's coming down to, is the person going to pull the lever in the right way, regardless of if it's hypocritical, on an issue like abortion or whatever other thing as your motivator, then at the end of the day, it's not illogical to stop caring. And I think that's the place where, unfortunately, we're in as a country, where over and over again,
that is how most people feel. Most people are going to vote for an R or a D if they're an R or a D.
The Tara Reade allegations came up, and people were very quick, including Stacey Abrams, before there was any time to have an investigation or really know what had happened. We're very quick to say that Joe Biden, who had been accused credibly of having inappropriate conduct with, I think, 8 women at the start of the campaign, said that there's no there, it couldn't possibly be the case. And that's not to say one way or the other that I know what happened, but immediately there was this reaction that said we're going to protect the candidate because the candidate was already locked in. So it's disappointing to kind of see how much fundraising Herschel Walker has been able to do off of this, and that one hasn't hurt him more.
And that one was really directly hypocritical because the standard that Biden himself had articulated for how to handle sexual misconduct claims of that nature was automatic belief in all accusation. There was no question that under the standard he had articulated, he should have not been the candidate. He should have been hounded out of public life. Now, I think that standard is stupid. I do not support it at all.
But there was also no investigation. So like Kamala Harris earlier on had said she believes the women at the start of the primary, suddenly mum on the issue when the Tara Reade stuff came up. There was obviously a difference between how the Christine Blasey Ford allegations were handled versus Tara Reade, and on and on. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. In this case, I think that Democrats are even more upset because there does seem to be something about morals. There's a lot of moralizing around the issue of abortion that makes one's willingness to vote for restrictions on abortion that you yourself weren't subject to or don't really believe in to seem particularly unethical.
Well, but speaking of moralizing, so Senator Raphael Warnock has a little bit of a scandal going as well. Some reporting from the Washington Free Beacon. No surprise that this is being reported by a conservative outlet rather than the mainstream media. Just didn't have time for this one, I guess, to do any digging. But so he is paid a salary by his church. Or a monthly stipend that's pretty high. He's paid a salary and a monthly stipend of $7,400. But this church owns a very low income, or I think borderline homeless people apartment complex that it has evicted over the pandemic, evicted people from with some regularity, including, according to the Free Beacon, someone owed $28 in past due rent, and they evicted him anyway.
Yeah, look at my last radar from a couple of weeks ago. Landlords are horrible because I'm sorry, even the best landlords often find themselves in situations where they're justifying evicting people over relatively small sums of money that are going to cause extremely huge hardships to the people involved. And the fact that a spiritual institution is owning these properties and treating these people in ways that, I'm not devout, but I would consider to be rather ungodly, rather
This is a building for the chronically homeless and those with mental disabilities. I mean, this is one solution to the problem we bring up on the show a lot. Homeless, mentally ill people who are a danger to themselves and the others. One good solution is for communities of faith religious and charitable organizations to minister to them, to provide for them, to keep them off the streets.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a reason why, charity doesn't play the same role as government-based social supports, because there's no oversight, there are no
the charities
standards.
are giving all the money to senators.
Well, if you want to bait me into a defense of religious institutions that often prey upon their flock and are extractive and predatory, it's not going to be me, because I completely agree with that. That's for people in their own religious communities to decide how they want to handle that and what they want to do to their leadership, because that's a very sensitive issue. And it's none of my business. But you're not going to catch me defending this kind of practice, and it's deplorable. What you have to get to at the end of the day is all the Democrats are going to line up and say, well, again, if I had an option between a version of Raphael Warnock who, didn't have a church that owned this building that behaved in this way, and a version that did, I would choose, the version that didn't, I would choose the version that didn't. There's also probably a more robust conversation to be had, not that this excuses the underlying behavior in any way, about how much Raphael Warnock, the leader of this institution, is aware of what's happening at a building owned by his church that's obviously got a lot of things going on at the same time.
I believe there have also been some, I've seen alleged, accusations lobbed at him from his ex-wife, or I believe he's recently separated from his wife. I know she's said she's accused him, I think, of running over a foot. Again, these are, again, messy personal stuff is always messy.
Dudes do not rock.
What?
Dudes do not rock in this case.
Well,
look, this is exactly the issue. This is exactly the issue. And
at that level, honestly, I don't know that the public needs to, again, a lot of people go through difficult personal things. Public officials need to be held to a much higher standard than ordinary people.
But we're in a general election.
Yeah.
The primary time for deciding those kinds of things is long behind us, and now people have to pick the lesser of two evils. And that's why I honestly think downright, on the policy basis.
I'm not voting for any of these people.
Yeah, on the policy basis, I think it's pretty obvious whose policies are going to inure to the benefit of the people of Georgia. I'm obviously
as a third-party voter, sometimes there isn't always a third-party candidate in the race. So theoretically, my vote could be up for grabs for an R or a D if you're not an utterly reprehensible person and you don't support military COVID restrictions. That's the best way to win my vote.
Which is why I was trying to say that policy should lead. And this is what Bernie Sanders has recently criticized the Democrats of doing. They've basically been running on abortion to the exclusion of a lot of the economic issues that still drive voters and our voters' primary concern all across the country. He thinks it's a mistake. And I think that if you're in the situation where everyone's saying everyone else is immoral, it's even more imperative for you to make it clear why you, on an economic basis, outside of what's in your heart and soul, are going to actually provide for the people in your community.
All right, well, we'll have more Rising in just a minute. Stay with us.